Hello everyone, welcome to this video on my Obsidian Vault. In this video, I'm going to take you through my Obsidian Vault in a lot of depth. I'm going to explain my templates, my workflows, and ultimately how and why I use Obsidian. So what is the main purpose and goal of my Obsidian workflow? Well, obviously it's to take some information and get to some sort of endpoint. But what is that endpoint? For me, the endpoint is teaching people. And it's not because I just enjoy teaching, which I do. I do enjoy teaching people, but it's because I believe that one of the best ways to learn is to teach people. It's to explain what you've learned. It's actually part of something that is known as the Feynman technique. But we're getting a bit distracted here. Let's get back to my Obsidian workflow. The whole point of my Obsidian workflow is to take these ideas and these concepts and these quotes and these snippets of text and these things that I've gleaned on the internet and turn them into content. And that can be content for myself. It can be content for people on Twitter, YouTube, on my blog, my newsletter, which you should totally go and subscribe to. But yeah, that's the end goal of it, is to take these ideas and concepts, to digest it, and then to spit it out into some form of content. One of my principles is actually that I should write all my notes in my system for my kids one day. I envisage these kids sitting at this computer one day reading through their father's knowledge base or his personal knowledge management system as if you were reading through, I don't know, a great grandmother's diary or something. I think it's a similar concept. So I'm hoping that in this video, you'll get a pretty good understanding for how that workflow works. And if you have a similar workflow, I hope you'll be able to steal and glean some ideas from it. I keep feeling like this camera is skew, but I swear it's straight. How is my vault structured? And that's what I'm going to take you through in the next section here. So if we come and have a look at my vault, and you'll notice straight away that firstly, I don't have too many notes in here. Only it's sitting just shy of 800 at the moment. I've heard of people that have 10,000, 30,000. So compared to those folks, I really don't do that much note taking. But this system has some structure, and you'll see that by these folders on the side here. Then there's a whole lot of chaos here. Everything is just thrown in with not much structure at all. And that's because I try to just throw ideas in, but I don't want to use folders to categorize my ideas and my notes because I think it's kind of counterintuitive. My firm belief is that folders should be used to document an area or a process. So you'll actually see that I use folders more for processes than I do for categorizing of notes. I prefer to use what is known as maps of content. I believe Nick Milo came up with that. I could be mistaken. I know there's like so many personal knowledge management gurus out there that have all these incredible ideas, and I've gone and gleaned and borrowed some of them, you could say. And I'm hoping you'll do the same. So let's just take a look at the graph view here. And you'll see in this graph view, like we've got these really big nodes over here, or maps of content, and then we've also got a lot of orphan pages. And those orphan pages are because when I create a new note, I don't like friction. So if I can't within 5 seconds think of where does this note belong, I just create it anyway through the create new note icon over here. But if I can think of where it belongs, I'll go and find the map of content where it belongs and I'll create it there. My Obsidian Vault has these two layers essentially. We've got maps of content and then we've got notes. And let me show you an example of what a map of content will look like. So this is my home note. It's closed so it's less distracting. And on the home note, there is 5 sections, I believe, if I counted correctly. Yeah. Now, the whole point of the home note is to just have everything that I could possibly need so I can jump into things as quickly as possible right at my fingertips. So you'll see things like an inbox. That's something that I don't actually use. Before Obsidian came along with its mobile app, I was using the inbox, and then I was using a separate markdown app on my phone. But now that we have the mobile app, the inbox is not really needed, and you'll see that it's empty. Then I have content creation, which is just my content creation node. And then I have a personal map, which goes to a, a map of content where I map out all my notes on self-reflection and goals and my personal strengths and my personal weaknesses. Then I have reference. That takes me to a map of content where I have a whole bunch of reference. So like say for example, I come across some code to make some fancy adjustment in Obsidian, or like CSS snippets. I can dump that there, for example. Then reading list is exactly what you think it is. Although I do use Instapaper and Readwise for consuming content, and I'm going to go over that in another video. Main maps, exactly what it says it is. It's just a collection of the big main areas in my life. So PKM, or personal knowledge management, goals, thinking, faith, productivity, interests. For interests that aren't big enough to be on my home note, I'll put them there. So interests are just little areas that I want to learn more about. So like for example, if I want to learn more about sleep, or if I want to learn more about genetics and CRISPR, or COVID, or something along those lines, I can just dump it in there. Self-improvement, exactly what you think it is. Personal finance, writing, these are all just main areas in my life that I want to contribute a lot of energy towards. And then of course reference. I think references are more utilitarian in nature. Focus areas, this is just a place where I can just dump stuff and not have to think about it. But it's also, if I'm working on something and I want to keep thinking about it, I can dump that note there. So for example, you are the average of your 5 best friends. That's just something that I've been working on. It's a blog or a note. I don't have to say, hey, this is going to be a blog just yet. It's just a note with an idea that I've been working on. And the basic idea of this, I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but the basic idea of this is that people can curate the content they consume online, and the content we consume online is sort of like our friends. So that's the basic idea of that. But it's going to be a blog that I'm going to be writing, or an idea, a note, may even be a video one day. And same with all these other things. Like, they are all these little ideas that I'm cultivating. I mean, Outliers, The Story of Success. I'm busy reading that book by Malcolm Gladwell. So it's just a summary that I've been making while I've been reading the book. As you can see, it's just quick access. I mean, business ideas. That's not something I wanted to put underneath any single MOC, but I've dumped it over here. Content creation pipeline, exactly what you think it is. It's a pipeline of my content creation. I'm going to show you that a bit later. And then we have my work node, and then Conte, which is my private side hustle, personal business. That's the home notes. That's what it looks like. And as you can see, it's mainly about navigation. It's not too much work goes on here. So the next best thing to look at would be templates. And that's just because templates are the little parts that sort of make up my system. So we're going to head over here to templates, and let's see, which should we start with? Let's start with the most important one, and the one that I use the most, and that's the note template. And you see in the note template immediately, I'm going to go into edit mode just so we can see what's going on here. Immediately, it's tagged with a status with a child of note. And if we go to the tag pane, you'll see that the status note, and there's 69 notes roughly with the status of note. Okay. And all that means is that this is a child of a map of content, essentially, or it should be. And we'll get into the philosophy of my personal knowledge management at a later stage in this video. So we have our YAML or YAML over here, or metadata. You'll see that if I click this, it just shows metadata, and I can collapse that. And then we have text. This is where I can write stuff. So I can write stuff here. Okay, so that's how the note would work. And then I've intentionally not put too much of this metadata at the top, because I want to get to the text as quickly as possible. I don't want to have like a mountain of text at the top of my note, and then like that's just metadata. I want to get to the actual nitty-gritty of the note as quickly as possible. So we have this metadata here. So if I wanted to, I could link to a website or another note. So say for example, I'm talking about photosynthesis, I can link to other necessary notes that I haven't linked to in the main body text here. Okay, I'm not going to edit this notes too much because this is a template. And then you'll see this true to do thing here. By default, I tag almost everything that comes into my Obsidian vote with true to do, and true, TRU, stands for the roundup, which is my email newsletter. Again, shameless plug, please go subscribe to that. I'd really appreciate it. And that newsletter is just all this interesting things that I found on the internet, and thoughts that I have, videos that I do, all sorts. And by tagging everything that comes into my vault with true to do, I can go to my tag pane here, or I can search tag. I can say tag, and I can find, tag true. So I can find everything that's tagged true to do, and instantly I have this backlog of content that I can include in my newsletter. So it's a weekly newsletter, and whenever I sit down to write that newsletter, I'm never at a loss for what to include in that newsletter. I've always got this backlog of ideas and information and articles and interesting stuff. So that's the notes template. Let's go back to templates. The next template that we're going to look at is, let's have a look at the MOC template. So MOC is map of content. The first thing you'll notice is that there is a home link here. So every map of content links back to the home page, just because I find it's so much easier to navigate like that. It's almost like navigating through a website. So I can click on home, and then I can go to personal knowledge management and then back home. I can go to goals and then back home. Personal knowledge management, I can go into my knowledge management method, and then you'll see here that I am now in a note on my knowledge management method, and I can just say Alt left arrow and go back, and then back home. So it just makes navigating around your vault so much easier. So let's go back to map of content navigation template, and then what I've made provision for here is the ability to link to other maps of content that are relevant to this map of content. So you can think of them as subfolders to this topic. Then I've made a strict section where I put my notes and my thoughts. So very strictly, only things that are made in a notes template can go in this section here. Okay. Now, over here, I have concepts and resources. So resources are things like links to books, to websites, to videos, to as well as other notes that I've taken on that relate to this. So say, for example, I'll show you an example of what that looks like. On personal knowledge management in resources, I've put notes to, and these are all notes on videos, on articles and stuff, because they're resources. So building a second brain, how to take smart notes, the para notes taking method. I've put a link to Andy Matushak's notes, some books, and just various other resources, things that support the idea or the topic that we're looking at. So since we're talking about resources, let's have a look at the resource note, and that's called source template. And you'll see that it looks almost identical to the notes template, except it says medium, medium, and then it tells me, where did I get the source? So was it from an article? Was it from a video, a podcast? Sometimes it was a speech, so like a talk that I physically went and attended. And again, there's the true tag showing me that I need to include this in my email newsletter, and then I can put any text here. So just a quick note on sources and notes. The differentiation that I make is that notes have to be in my own words, my own understanding of the topic or the idea at hand. And that's important to me because I know that if I'm writing a blog, I can just copy and paste text out of this notes thing, but it wouldn't be a good idea to just copy and paste text out of the source template, because that would be plagiarism. You really want to, and as part of learning, you really want to take what you've read and absorb it. Now, you're probably thinking, why not just link to the website in your note? So over here, I've got this note. Why not just link to the website when I'm talking about something? Well, very simply, with the rise of paywalls, often what websites will do is they'll say, hey, you have free articles this month, and you have to pay. So I might reference an article and then come visit it later in the month, only to find that I can't access that article. Extremely infuriating. So that's why when that happens, when I come across a paywall website, or a website where I'm like, the information is just so valuable, I don't want to lose this, I actually just use this extension, and I'll show you that extension at a later stage. It's called Markdown Downloader, and it just creates a Markdown download of the website that you're looking at, and I can just import that straight into my vault, and it's there, nice and safe. But as I said, I don't touch that. It's a resource. I don't just copy and paste out of that. I go and I extrapolate my own ideas. I articulate my own ideas from that resource into the notes template, and then from there I can build tweets and newsletters and blogs and videos. So it's like building blocks essentially. So the next thing we're going to look at is the video script template. And this is just a template that I use for YouTube videos. So you'll see that I've made provision for the completed video. If I've written a blog on it, I put that there. The script, I write out my introductions in full, but then I pretty much bullet point everything else. Then I've got some tasks here: write the script, film B-roll, all that good stuff. I'm just going to hide that because it's nothing necessary. And then this is just like a copy and paste description thing for YouTube. And then I'll go and edit some of this on a per video basis. And then if I received any feedback of the video, I'll put that underneath there. So like someone will say, hey Ross, you were really overexposed in that video. I'll be like, okay, great. In the next video, I need to make sure that I expose the shot correctly. Or perhaps someone says, Ross, you just really rambled on and on and on. I'll make a note to make the next video shorter, for example, if I feel that it's necessary. I actually have two more templates here that I want to show you guys. The next one is the daily pages template. So the daily pages template, what this does is, I know this has got some weird thing here, but it uses the daily pages. So you open today's daily note. I'll actually show what that looks like so. And then what I'll do is go to daily notes. Let's open today's notes like so. And then I'll do my daily pages like this. So it just puts in the date, and you'll notice that I don't link to dates, not necessary. Tell me what day it is, and then I can write literally whatever I want. And then I've got the daily prompts here. And then, so like, I'll pick one of these. So like, what am I thinking about? What am I stressed about? Whatever I feel is most relevant to today, I will take one of these things and I'll write them. And I'll be clear with you guys. I do not do this every day. I've really tried to create a habit of daily journaling or daily pages. It just hasn't worked for me, but I do it when I can. One thing I can say is I do write in Obsidian almost every single day, and I think that's the important thing. So I'll answer these prompts, and then as you can see, delete when done. I'll just take this and delete it when I'm done, and then I'll have my daily pages. So the other template that I want to show you guys quickly is my meeting template. Now in the meeting template, it's very simple. Source, meeting. Remember, we're going back to that whole thing of where did I get this information from? So if we go have a look at source, you'll see here. So it says source, article, video, articles. So this is a weird error that's come up with when I was integrated Readwise recently, but it should be pretty easy to fix. All I need to do is change it in Readwise, and then I'll use something like VS Code to do a mass find and replace on my vault. But you'll see here, like there, I only got 10 meetings as a source. And one thing I'm very religious about is if this meeting note is all action and I don't need the information anymore, I don't keep it in Obsidian. I delete it, and if need be, I'll create another note from the notes section. But very rarely do I actually keep meeting notes. So that's why I only have 10. Let's take a look at what this looks like. I have a date here, person. If I'm meeting with one person, who was the person, and I'll actually show you what my person template looks like in a second, and why do I even have a person template. Who attended the meeting, pretty self-explanatory. the agenda, notes, and then action items for me. And then what I'll do is, as soon as I'm done with the meeting, I'll take all the action items out of here and add it to TickTick, which is the task management system that I use. The next template I want to show you guys very quickly, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, is the person template. And literally all that is this, very boring. It just says here person, and the reason I do this is so I'll have the person's name. I'll find an example. This is Ali Abdal. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably know who he is. Massively well-known productivity guru guy. But this is Ali Abdal's page. Sometimes, very rarely, I'll put like a bio if I'm not familiar with the person over here. But the important thing to take note of is these linked mentions. So what this is great for is if I put someone in my system, and then I can start to make connections between all the different content they've created. So you'll see this like little local graph here. So I can see that he's part of this node called Make It Stick, which is a recommended book by Ali Abdal. So I mean, that's great. That's a perfect example of why I have people in my Obsidian. So I mentioned at the beginning of this video that one of the main reasons that I use Obsidian is to create this content pipeline. So something that I have always done is I've used this content creation folder over here. And you'll remember at the beginning of the video that I said that I only use folders for workflow. So you'll see here, for example, I'll put my blogs that I need to do over here in the to-do folder, but the blogs that I've done in the done folder. So I've always used folders as like a workflow thing. And the same with book notes and my newsletters. You see like in newsletters, like here's all the ones that I've needed to do, that I have done. But I've recently changed it up and I've created this content creation pipeline, which I actually haven't put in here. It is over here in big writing. And it's the Kanban. This is another plugin that I use in Obsidian, and I was a bit skeptical about grabbing a Kanban and putting it in Obsidian. But basically the way it works is I'll have an idea or I'll have a note and I'll put it in the backlog. For example, my notes taking app journey. That's like an idea for a video that I had, how I went from Evernote to Notion to Roam Research to Obsidian, and the other notes taking apps that I've played with. I just thought it would be interesting for some people to know that. I don't know. I haven't actually made it a note yet. So this is a backlog. This is like my ideas for where I can, what content I can make. And then what I've been trying to do is take my most granular ideas and post them on Twitter. And then from Twitter, they progress into newsletters. Then from newsletters, they progress into blogs. And then from blogs, they progress into videos. So like customer retention triangle. That's something that I've posted on Twitter, posted on my newsletter, posted on my blog, and now it's time to put it on YouTube. And then things that go into done are just automatically archived. So that's how I sort of do my content creation. Earlier I spoke about how I tag almost everything with the tag true to do, the roundup to do. And I'll just show you what that looks like again here. We go to tag and true to do. So everything is tagged with true to do. So here's an example of an article that I made highlights from, and this came through from Readwise. You can tell because it puts all this metadata up here, and as far as I can tell, there's no way to put the metadata at the bottom, which is what I'd prefer. But this is tagged with true to do. So let's go take a look at one of my upcoming newsletters. The content creation pipeline, the roundup. That's where we want to be, and this is a coming up one. So this is where I'd start. It's basically a blank template, but what you'll see here is that I have some linked mentions, and that's because I've already started throughout my week, and today is Friday, meaning tomorrow I will write my newsletter, and that will go live on Monday morning. So like I've mentioned the roundup edition 26 on content throughout the week, how I consume content online, smart lists, And okay, those are irrelevant. Those are just other dashboards that link here. And I'll do the same with other things. So like I've come across a really cool quote, put that in Obsidian, and then tag it with edition 26 as I go through. But like, let's say I'm looking at my backlog here, like circle of competence. What is this? The circle of competence is the areas that you're most familiar with. And I can see that this is a mental model. So perhaps I want to write about this in my newsletter. What I would do is I'd edit it and I'll just change this tag to edition 26, like so. And then when it comes to writing the actual newsletter, I can start pulling in this content. For example, circle of competence, like so. I can look at what the general gist of this text is, and then I'll just start writing about it here, and I'll just go for it. Then, because Markdown is amazing, I literally just copy and paste straight out of here, dump that into ConvertKit, which is the email platform I use, and then I'm like good to go. So it really is a smooth system from that perspective. So one of the other things that I said we would talk about in this video is my personal knowledge management philosophy. And I need to be honest with you guys. This is not something that I have nailed down and is all concrete and final. So let's go take a look at it. This is my personal knowledge management map of content. It's a mouthful. And here I've stolen some stuff from Nick Milo. So I've put in here some personal knowledge management values. So it must be fun to use, be future proof, easy to access. And I think this is all common logic. Like when you create a PKM, especially in a tool that uses backlinking and relational data, it should encourage thinking and intentional rabbit holes. It should surprise me in the future. So I have yet to perfect this. And I guess that's the idea of a value. A value kind of gives you this thing that you can aspire to. And I haven't got there yet with my system. But at the same time, like I don't like Zettelkasten or Zettelkasten. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I don't find para works for me. It just doesn't work for me. So I've had to go and create my own system for content consumption and creation. And I've got these values and I'm just going to make that system that I have work for me. So I have these guiding principles. And again, this is an idea that I stole from Nick Milo. I think I actually copied and pasted this from Nick Milo's thing, but then I went and reworded it myself just because I thought the way he's approached it is just so fantastic. So guiding principles: only create a new note from a map of content or an existing note. Is this idea based on something? So to try to create this rabbit hole that is spoken about here, always try to create a note from an existing note where possible. You'll remember that at the beginning of this video, I kind of mentioned that I don't like friction. So if after 5 or 10 seconds, I can't think of where this note belongs, I'll just go and click this and try to place it in somewhere at a later stage. You'll remember that I spoke about this plugin here, the one that find unlinked files and resolved links. That's great for that. So I'm covered from that perspective. Only create a new note if you have more than 3 sentences to say about the topic. I actually really try to put as much as I can in one note as possible. So like take thinking, for example, mental models. Like I've tried to put as much into this one note as possible and only create new notes when there is a lot of content within these notes. So 3 sentences for me is the rule. I need to say at least 3 sentences about a topic in order to create a note. Each idea should be on a new page if it can meet the following points criteria. Self-explanatory. Notes should be written for myself but make sense to someone else. Again, I write everything in my notes-taking system as if I was going to make it a blog. Probably 90% of it never makes it to my blog or my newsletter, but I write everything as if it was because in some ways, this is the legacy that I'm going to leave on this planet is my knowledge management, the things that I've learned over a lifetime. And I'm hoping that one day maybe my kids will read this and either they'll think, shucks, my dad is a crazy old man, or they'll think, wow, my dad had some interesting ideas and insights. Okay, so what can you make a map of content for? Any idea or concept. This includes a book, blog, something you're learning, something you're thinking about. Again, things like concepts or ideas you find on the internet. These are guiding questions. These are questions that I can constantly come back to. And again, I stole these from Nick Milo, and I'm keep saying that because I want to credit him for having really good ideas. I think it's important. Can I find what I'm looking for? Am I able to think fast? Am I able to think deeply? Can I be surprised? If the answer at any point is no to these questions, then I know that this system is not working and I need to think about it. And then these are like notes that I've made, like my knowledge management method. And that's where I've wrestled with the whole idea of like atomic notes versus evergreen notes. And I've just found that that system doesn't work for me. The system that works for me is to think of all my notes as this pipeline going from little atomic little notes into blogs and videos. That's what works for me. I know that was a bit of a long video. If you've made it this far, firstly, well done. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks in that video. One of the ways that you can support me is by subscribing to this channel, liking this video, and another way is you can subscribe to my newsletter where I share all my latest videos, my Obsidian tricks, and just various other ideas I've learnt and found on the internet. But until next time, have an awesome week.